Oh, we are just days away from Torontonians hitting the polls, and here on BT, we are featuring the 7 leading candidates for one-on-one interviews this week. Up next, we hear from former columnist Anthony Furey. Good morning, Anthony.
Great to be here, Tammie.
Thanks for joining us. And you have been the candidate, the only one, according to the polls, that has significantly made a jump towards the top of the polls. You have been listed as 3rd in some polls, and this is something that's really developed over the last few weeks. Why do you think you've hit the right note with Torontonians who are now throwing their support behind you?
Yeah, thanks, Tammie. I mean, I really think it's about my belief that now is a time for choosing. This great city of ours, so many people all across the city, all corners, all walks of life, they tell me how much they love the city, but they feel like Toronto is starting to slip. And I feel like now is a time for choosing. Do we want to look more like those unfortunate scenes in downtown Seattle and San Francisco, Vancouver? Awful stuff playing out on those streets, and I've been talking a lot about how as the parent, as the father of 3 small kids, we're finding needles in the playground, not just downtown when we used to live near Moss Park, but over in the East End now. People are experiencing this in the suburbs. These concerns that we're dealing with a lot of decay, all these tent encampments we're seeing, and we're a compassionate city and we have to help these people, but we also can't further erode our standards. So that's why I want to phase out those drug injection sites, replace them with treatment centers, hire more police officers to have a visible police presence on the streets and on public transit, and just do a lot to turn this city around. Because, Tammie, we're not going to be able to share the wealth if we don't grow the wealth, and we're not going to be able to grow the local economy if we don't turn around the vibrancy of the city, get things moving again, clean up our streets.
Now, when you talk about encampments, we'll get to that a little bit deeper in a minute, but I did want to go to your background as well. You are a former columnist as well as a broadcaster journalist here in the city, but in some of your analysis, there has been things that have been said that are not favorable to certain communities here in the city, including the Muslim community, the trans community, and so on. How do you market yourself then as a mayor potentially for all people?
Well, look, I would actually kind of dispute that. I mean, I think I've been writing columns for about 12 years, and I'd encourage everyone to go out there and read them all, although I think there's about 1,000 of them out there, and maybe 1 or 2 people won't like, but by and large, I think you're going to read my work and go, hey, he's a pretty reasonable guy. But I would say on certain issues, I embrace everybody. I'm an inclusive guy, but I know when it comes to things like parents saying, well, hold on a second, why are you sending surveys home to my 7-year-old asking, oh, are you non-binary and so forth? Everyone tells me, all walks of life, Muslim parents, gay and lesbian parents say the schools shouldn't be pushing that sort of thing. So as mayor, I'm going to be an advocate for their voices on those fronts. And look, this is a city full of amazing people, and I've had the opportunity to meet everyone all across the city. I'm going to stand up for all communities, all families, and people have a lot of concerns right now. And I love this city. I know this city. It's a city worth fighting for. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, I'm going to move on to encampments because you brought that up as well, wanting to clear those parks in order for families to be able to enjoy. We have a viewer question as well about this. It's a comment from a viewer named Heather on Facebook saying that Anthony Furey has said that he wants to eliminate the homeless living in parks, etc. I would like to know, where are they going to go? Shelters are full and not a safe place. They definitely cannot live outside in the winter. What would you say to that?
Yeah, great question. And the encampments are not a safe space, not just for our families, for our children who are having to deal with needles in the playground, but also people in those encampments. They are unfortunately the site of a lot of abuse of a whole different varieties of nature there, a real problematic situation. But, you know, Councillor Chris Moyes for downtown, he's spoken about how they've gone and attempted to offer services to people. Some have taken them up, others have not. Ultimately, I'm a families first person here in terms of these policies and a clean up our streets first policy. So we're going to clear those parks all across the city because you can't stay there, and we're going to make sure they don't take root again. But I'm going to work with the province and the federal government to make sure that we can give people the services they need, get them access to that. Unfortunately, close to half of the people in the shelter system are actually recent refugees, and I'm looking forward to working with Prime Minister Trudeau to make sure that an issue that is a federal responsibility is something that his government does manage, as opposed to Toronto taxpayers having to basically create a quasi-refugee shelter system. So we're going to do all we can to care for people, but I'm going to put families first. And I'm going to clean up the parks, we're going to clean up the streets, phase out those drug injection sites, open treatment centers instead.
Okay, you've talked about property taxes, saying that you're not going to be raising them any more than the rate of inflation.
Right.
In this case, you have said when it comes to public safety, you're going to hire hundreds more officers.
500 more.
500 more. How then do you reconcile that with the fact that you're only going to be raising property taxes maybe below or at the rate of inflation?
Yeah, great question. And all the candidates running against me, they're looking for opportunities to take more money out of people's wallets, voting for even entirely new taxes, municipal sales tax, road tolls, commercial parking levy. I'm not doing that. I don't look at this as a zero-sum game. I'm the pro-economy guy, the pro-business policy guy. I want to grow the local economy, and that gives us more of a tax base. That gives us more revenue. Every new condo that comes on the market, we got to look at that as the fact that we're going to get an extra $3,000 in property tax from those new units. So it's all about growth, and that's how we fund our services. I'm not taking more money out of regular folks' pockets during an affordability crisis. And as for the 500 more officers, I mean, Tammie, this is an election about priorities. Everyone says public safety is a priority. 500, that sounds like a lot. No, it's not. That actually just brings us back to where we were at in 2014. And if we could afford it then, when the budget was way smaller, we can afford it now. I'm going to make sure City Hall has the right priorities that reflect what people are saying right now.
All right, safe injection sites, as you said, you want to transfer them, transition them over to treatment centers. At this point, though, the safe injection sites, they do save hundreds of lives. You have brought up the fact that the area around some of these sites, it does turn into, I guess, a less desirable neighborhood when that happens. You've brought that up. What do you say to those people who say that this is actually, in the interim, saving lives, even for those people who are not up to getting treatment at this point? You want to save a life regardless.
Yeah, the first drug site opened in Canada 20 years ago, and the more drug sites we have, unfortunately, the more urban decay we have, the more doses, the more overdose deaths. So we really got to go in a different direction here, and I'm looking forward to working with public health and the province, and I understand the province will be a willing partner on this to bring about these changes here to clean up our streets. I mean, I'm the person who did that press conference everybody watched where I said Toronto taxpayer dollars and Ontario taxpayer dollars are going towards city-funded crack pipes and crystal meth kits that are being distributed not just at the drug sites right here at Yonge and Dundas Square, but all across the city now. Family shelter systems that are run by different religious service agencies, Christian groups, Muslim groups, they're being told they have to distribute these crack pipes at their facilities. I mean, it's just a crazy situation that I don't think anybody of any political background, any walk of life would say that's the direction we want to head in Toronto. So I'm saying now's the time for choosing. Let's not go in this direction. I believe Olivia Chow is mayor. She wants to go more in that direction. And I'm saying, hold on a second. We got to pause this. We got to go in what I think is a more optimistic direction, that we can turn these things around. We can help these people reclaim their lives, and that'll make our families safer as well.
All right. Anthony Furey, thank you so much for joining us here on BT. We really do appreciate it. Good luck on Monday.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, Tammie.